Okay, let's jump right into this deep dive. Think about this. What if you could slash, say, 80% of the time your team spends just wrestling with data pipelines, keeping them alive?
That's a pretty compelling hook, right? And no custom code needed for that part.
Exactly. Imagine taking all that effort, all those hours, fixing finicky scripts, and putting it into actually finding answers. Getting insights from your data and getting them fast.
It really speaks to a major pain point we see everywhere. I mean, organizations today are just flooded with data. It's coming from, well, everywhere. All your SaaS tools, internal databases, cloud platform.
It's a deluge. And historically, trying to bring all that together, it's been, frankly, a nightmare. Building those custom ETL pipelines. It was
Yeah.
like setting up this incredibly fragile house of cards. One tiny change upstream, a source API gets updated, a database schema shifts slightly,
And boom, the whole thing falls over.
right, leading to constant manual fixes by engineers, just endless firefighting.
It was a huge productivity sink, a massive drain. But the sources we looked at really highlight this shift, this kind of new era enabled by automated ELT.
ELT extract, load, transform. The order matters there.
It really does. And the key enabler, as the sources point out, is the rise of these super powerful, scalable cloud data warehouses. They can handle the heavy lifting in a way older systems just couldn't.
Which paved the way for tools like, well, Fivetran, which the sources focus on quite a bit. They seem to be really changing how businesses approach moving and managing data.
Absolutely transformative for many. So I guess our mission here, digging into these sources, is to unpack why. What actually makes this automated ELT approach and tools like Fivetran such a game changer?
Okay, so let's start there. You mentioned ELT versus the old way ETL. Can you break that down a bit more?
Sure. So traditional ETL extract, transform, load, the transformation happens before the data even gets loaded into your central warehouse or data mart. You had to define the structure, clean it, reshape it, often in a separate processing engine.
Which sounds intensive up front.
It was, and often brittle, like we said. With ELT extract, load, transform, the whole philosophy changes. Tools like Fivetran, they focus intensely on the E and L, get the raw data extracted from the source reliably, and load it quickly and directly into that powerful cloud data warehouse.
As is. Like, no cleaning first.
Pretty much as is, yeah. All the complex transformation, the cleaning, the modeling, the joining that happens later inside the warehouse using its power, often with other tools like dbt is a popular one mentioned.
Okay, got it. So the immediate benefit is speed to get the data in.
Exactly. Speed and simplicity for that initial, often painful step. And Fivetran, according to the sources, aims to automate those E&L steps almost completely. That's the core value prop.
How does it actually do that? Is it just simple data dumps?
Oh, far from it. That's what's really interesting. It relies on a huge library of pre-built connectors, hundreds of them, for all sorts of sources, databases, sauce apps, APIs, event streams.
So you don't need engineers coding connections for Salesforce, then another for Marketo, another for your production database.
Precisely. You configure the connector, often just providing credentials, and Fivetran handles the rest. But it's not just the connection itself. It's the ongoing maintenance within that connection that's key.
What do you mean by maintenance within?
Well, the sources detail this really well. Think about those things that break custom scripts. Schema changes, for example. If the source adds a column or changes a data type.
Your script probably crashes or starts loading junk data.
Right. Fivetran is designed to detect those schema changes automatically and adapt. It might add the new column in the destination or alert you, but critically, it aims not to break the pipeline. It handles schema drift gracefully. That's huge.
Okay, that alone sounds like a major win. No more late night calls because an API changed unexpectedly.
Exactly. And it also handles other tricky bits, like navigating API quirks, things like rate limits, pagination, authentication refreshes, the stuff that makes building robust custom connectors so time-consuming and honestly frustrating for engineers.
The sort of invisible work that takes up so much time.
Totally. And another big one is incremental updates. After the first historical sync, Fivetran doesn't usually pull the entire data set every time. It uses various methods, logs, timestamps, whatever the source supports, to pull only the new or changed data.
Ah, so it's much more efficient day to day, not moving gigabytes when only megabytes change.
Massively more efficient. Saves time, saves processing costs in the warehouse, gets fresh data available faster. So when you combine the pre-built connectors, the automatic schema handling, the API navigation, the incremental syncs, that's the automation powerhouse.
Right, so the impact then. Faster setup is obvious. Hours or days instead of weeks or months for a new source.
Definitely. That's a consistent theme. Significantly faster implementation. But maybe even more importantly, it's the reduction in ongoing engineering burden. Teams aren't constantly building, monitoring, and fixing that basic data plumbing.
Freeing them up.
Yeah.
For what? What do they do instead?
That's the crucial part. They can focus on the value add work, understanding the business requirements, modeling the data correctly in the warehouse once it's landed, building the transformations, using tools like dbt to make it truly useful for analysis, ensuring data quality, digging for those actual insights the business needs.
So moving up the stack from low-level plumbing to higher-level data strategy and analysis.
Exactly. It's not just automating a task. The sources suggest it's enabling a shift in focus for the entire data team towards acceleration, towards insights.
And that must ripple outwards, right? What does it mean for, say, analysts or business leaders?
Well, analysts get access to data much faster and potentially fresher data because the pipelines are running more reliably and frequently. This means more agile reporting, quicker answers to ad hoc questions.
Less waiting for the data team to fix something or build a new connector.
Right. And for business leaders, that translates into more current dashboards, more reliable metrics. They can trust the data more because the pipeline isn't constantly breaking. This potentially leads to faster, better informed decisions.
You can see how in certain industries, finance, e-commerce, healthcare, maybe, where that timeliness and reliability are absolutely critical.
Oh, absolutely. In high-growth tech, too. It moves from being a convenience to a real strategic advantage. Having that reliable, automated flow of data becomes foundational.
Now, this sounds incredibly powerful, almost like a magic bullet.
Mm-hmm.
But the sources add a note of caution, don't they?
They do, and it's a really important one. Getting the data in fast and reliably with a tool like Fivetran is, let's say, step one. It solves the E&L problem brilliantly.
Right.
But the real value, the trust, the ability to confidently act on that data, that only comes when you pair that efficient pipeline with a strong downstream strategy.
Meaning what happens after the data lands in the warehouse?
Exactly. You still absolutely need good data modeling, structuring that raw data logically so it makes sense.
Yeah.
You need solid data governance, knowing where data came from, who owns it, how it should be used. And you definitely need robust data quality checks and processes to ensure accuracy and trustworthiness.
So Fivetran gets the raw materials to the factory floor incredibly efficiently, but you still need the skilled workers and processes inside the factory to turn those materials into a finished product you can rely on.
That's a great analogy, yeah. Fivetran handles the critical ingestion piece, but the rest of the modern data, stack the warehouse itself, transformation tools like dbt, governance tools, quality monitoring, they are all still essential partners in delivering value. You can't just plug in Fivetran and expect perfect insights immediately without that other work.
Okay, that context is crucial. So let's try and wrap this up. If we distill the core message from the sources.
I think it's that automated ELT, exemplified by tools like Fivetran, offers a really significant acceleration and simplification for getting data from all those scattered sources into modern cloud data warehouses. It automates the historically painful E&L steps.
And the key benefits jump out are?
Much faster implementation times, for sure. Greatly increased pipeline reliability, less breaking, less fixing, a major reduction in the engineering efforts spent on that low-level plumbing.
Which frees up engineers for more strategic work like modeling, transformation, analysis.
Right, and ultimately all of this leads to faster access to fresher, cleaner, more reliable data across the organization, enabling better, quicker decisions.
But, and it's an important but we just discussed, the full potential is only realized when it's combined with that strong downstream strategy. Good modeling, good governance, good quality checks.
Couldn't have said it better. The automation gets the data there. The strategy makes it truly usable and trustworthy.
Okay. So maybe a final thought to leave our listeners with based on all this.
Well, think about it this way. If robust automation, like we've discussed, can now reliably handle all the complex, messy details of just getting data into your warehouse, if it frees up significant engineering time and mental energy, what completely new, perhaps previously unimaginable questions about your business, your customers, your operations, could you finally start exploring? What insights are now within reach because the foundational data flow is taken care of?